special Christmas for me. Oh, presents and cards are here. My world is filled with cheer and you. Ha! This Christmas, the fireside is blazing bright.
What's up, Central Youth? We are so glad you decided to watch Central Youth Online today. My name is McKenna.
My name is Marcy.
And we're gonna have an awesome day. Marcy, have you heard about CY Nights?
Tell me more about it.
So good. I'm glad she wants to know because you want to know too. Hey guys, we're doing this thing called CY Nights. It's an incredible night that we've gotten to do for the past 2 months, where it's a night of worship, fun games, hangs, ridiculous videos, all the things you love about Central Youth in one night with some of your favorite people.
Yeah.
And we have our next one coming up on Wednesday, December 2nd, right here at Central at 6 o'clock. And you know what I'm pumped about, Marcy? It's our Christmas edition. All things Christmas, Christmas music, probably hot chocolate. I'm just so excited.
Delicious.
It's gonna be so good.
Well, speaking of Christmas, Central Live just dropped their new Christmas EP. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, whatever platform you use to listen to music. It's great. My favorite song is What Child Is This?
So good. I am extremely pumped. I'm like a Christmas music person, so I've been ready to start the Christmas music. And
got the Mariah Carey going.
Yes. Central Live is like, we got you. Here's a brand new Christmas EP. So they're hooking you up too. Make sure to go check it out. Well, hey guys, right now we're gonna get to go into our time of our message. And if you've ever watched Central Youth Online before, then you're gonna notice it's a little bit different. What we're doing is a new format where the message and small group questions are combined so that we're able to kind of process and ask these questions and have us question those things right then in the moment without necessarily the speaker saying what we think, but you getting to come to those conclusions yourself. So what you're gonna notice here is there's gonna be a couple minutes of speaking and then there's gonna be a question. What we would love for you to do is just engage in the comments. We have leaders on here that wanna talk to you, answer these questions, share your thoughts, and maybe if you have questions of your own, drop them all in there. But that is gonna be today. It's gonna be so fun. Remember the 3 things: CY Nights, Central Live EP. Have fun today and engage. We'll see you guys later.
If you guys don't know me, my name is Bryce, and I like to start each day with having a little bit of fun. I am so glad that you guys are here for week 3 of Plot Twists. And if we're being real, 2020 kind of feels like a giant plot twist, right? You're like, oh, 2020 is going to be awesome. Just kidding, it's not. Oh, we're going to go back to school. Just kidding, you're not. Oh, I'm going to live out all my goals and dreams. You're not, right? And we're learning about this guy named Joseph who made the best of his situation even when he had a whole bunch of plot twists. Some of us can relate to some of his plot twists. How many of you guys have ever felt like you were hated by your brother or sister? You felt hated. He was hated so bad he got sold into slavery. How many of you have ever been accused of something you didn't do? Okay, that happened to Joseph big time. He got thrown into prison. And today, how many of you guys have ever felt forgotten before? We're going to learn today how Joseph felt forgotten by those he counted on the most. And so before we begin today and see what happens in this next plot twist, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to dive into today. So let's close our eyes, bow our heads. God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for loving us. God, I pray you open our hearts and minds to you. Help us to see how you have a plan for us, God, even when everything else is falling apart. Help us to see, God, that you can still have a plot twist in our lives. And God, that this year could actually be possibly the greatest setup for the best year possible. It's in your son's name that I pray. And we all said, Amen. Okay, so I asked a little bit ago, but I'm going to ask again. How many of you guys have ever felt forgotten about or left out before, passed over before? Has anyone ever had, like, literally your family forgot about you? Maybe they forgot to pick you up. Maybe they forgot you at a practice. Maybe people forgot to invite you to a party or to a hangout or to something, a dinner, and you're like, oh, that's fun. I remember in my life, I grew up in a large family. I am kind of like the middle child of 6 kids, okay? I have an older brother, I have a twin sister, and I have 3 younger sisters. And so remembering birthdays is actually kind of hard. My mom's actually pretty good about it, but how many of you guys are bad with remembering dates, names, phone numbers? Anyone here, you don't even know your phone number right now? You're like, let me check my phone. Oh, there it is, okay. I remember when I was 12 years old, my family forgot about my birthday. And so they're like, oh, it's your birthday. Oh, we need to get you a gift. And so on my birthday night, they left me to go to Walmart to get me a birthday gift. And then they handed me my birthday gift in its Walmart grocery bag, just like that. Yes, it's real. And so I want you guys to actually share right now in groups, share about, has there ever been a moment where you were forgotten about by a family member or by a friend? Have you ever been forgotten about by friends or family? Let's go ahead, let's share. Ready, set, go. So I'm sure everyone in this room, there has been a moment that someone has forgotten about you. There's been a moment where you've been left out. There's been a moment where you've been passed over. And some of us, if we're being honest, we felt that way before about God. Maybe we felt like God has forgotten about us. We felt like God has left us. We feel like God has passed over us. And in the life of Joseph, we're going to see that he even had a moment when he felt like he had been forgotten about. He actually literally did get forgotten about. And so we're actually going to recap really quick what Joseph has been through already. If you guys have been here the last week or two, you've listened to the message, Joseph has had a really up and down life, a life that's gone crazy to the left, crazy to the right. There have been curveball after curveball. And so when he was about 17 years old, his brothers hated him because he was the favorite. Maybe some of us, we are the favorite of our family. Our parents take care of us. We never have to worry about anything. Joseph was also a tattletale. And so he was always busting his brothers. He's always telling his dad about them. And Joseph also had the ability to interpret dreams. God gave him the gift to be able to interpret dreams. One day he tells his brothers, he's the favorite, he's the tattletale. He tells his brothers, God gave me a vision that one day you will all bow down to me. And they're like, what are you talking about? And so they're about to kill him. They beat him up. They throw him into a hole in the ground. And then one of them has the bright idea, let's not kill him. Let's sell him into slavery. And Joseph's life is kind of like a mini series, a television series where previously on the life of Joseph, he was thrown into a hole and sold into slavery. This week on the life of Joseph, he's going to be thrown into jail. Watch us next week, when we find out that Joseph was forgotten in prison. Oh, that's kind of a rough life. So today we're going to talk about the time he wasn't just thrown into prison, he was forgotten in prison. And if you guys were here last week, we talked about Joseph was sold into slavery, and while he's a slave trying to do the best that he can in his current situation, God was still with him. God was still blessing him. The person that he served in the household of actually awarded him, gave him the position to be a head of the household whenever he was away. Joseph found himself in the home in a foreign land of an Egyptian commander. And the Egyptian commander saw Joseph and saw how hard of a worker he was, how trustworthy he was, and said, whenever I'm gone at war, whenever I'm gone on business, you're going to be the head of the household. But the commander's wife thought Joseph was a catch. She thought he was a snack. And so she put moves on Joseph. And Joseph rejected them. He ran away from them. Her feelings got hurt a little bit. And so she lied to everyone and said Joseph put the moves on her. And so he gets thrown into jail. And this is where we find Joseph today. And so in Genesis 39, we pick it up. Joseph's in jail. It's rough. But this is how I love how this verse starts. It says this, "But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden." Now, a prison warden was kind of like the leader of the prison, kind of like a principal, okay? So in charge of all the prisoners, just kidding, principals are awesome, but kind of like the principal of a jail. And so Joseph finds favor with the leader of the jail because of who he is, because of the decisions that he's making. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. So again, Joseph made the most of a horrible situation, and God was blessing him and rewarding him. Some of you just need to make the best of the horrible situation you're in right now. Some of you are in a horrible family dynamic right now. Maybe you don't live with your parents. Maybe your parents fight all the time. Maybe coming home feels like a war every day. Make the most of it. Maybe some of you, your school situation, homeschooling situation is not the best. You can still make the most of it, and God will bless you in that. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. So we see a good moment. Joseph is thrown into prison, but God is blessing him, and God is lifting him up slowly out of this situation. He's not just a prisoner anymore. He's helping run things in the prison. But then another plot twist happens. You see, Joseph had the ability to interpret dreams, and one day he finds himself in the audience of two of the pharaohs, the highest commander, the king of Egypt. Two of his workers are thrown into prison because they weren't doing a good job. And he finds out that they have dreams, and he's able to interpret them. And so this is what it says in Genesis. We're continuing, Genesis 40. "While they were in prison, the Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker each had a dream one night, and each dream had its own meaning." Now, this is crazy. Back then, the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, we literally had jobs to serve the king all day. He had his own baker. How many of you guys would love to have your own personal baker? Like, they could just whip up anything you wanted. Like, I feel like some donuts. Someone's like, "I'll bake it for you right now." You're like, "You know what? I feel like an apple pie, a cherry pie, a pumpkin pie. Just make me all three." They're like, "Yes, sir." The king also had a role called the cupbearer. And they were one of the most trusted people in the land. They would actually taste everything before the king drank it, because back then, people were trying to poison kings all the time, poison pharaohs all the time. And so the cupbearer's one job was to make sure the king didn't get poisoned. That's kind of a rough job, right? You're like, hope this goes well. It's good grape juice, right? So they get thrown into jail. They have these crazy dreams. Joseph is able to interpret the dreams. He said, "Why do you look so worried?" He asked them, and they replied, "We both had dreams last night, but no one can tell us what they mean." And then he says, "Interpreting dreams is God's business. Go ahead and tell me your dreams." And so they tell him about their dreams, and the cupbearer's dream is good news. Joseph is able to interpret it. He's able to tell him exactly what it means. He says, "Your position, your role with the Pharaoh is going to be restored. You're going to get your job back. You're going to be in the king's good graces again." And then the baker tells him his dream, and Joseph says, "I don't know how to tell you this, but the dream you had means the king is not going to look on you favorably. He's actually going to execute you." Talk about a bearer of bad news, right? That's a bummer. And Joseph just asks one thing of the cupbearer, just one thing. He says, "I was able to interpret your dreams. I was able to help you not freak out." Baker, sorry. But cupbearer, he says this, "Please remember me and do me a favor when things go well for you. Mention me to Pharaoh so he might let me out of this place. For I was kidnapped from my homeland, the land of the Hebrews, and now I'm here in prison. But I did nothing to deserve it." All of Joseph's hope, all of his dreams are now riding with this cupbearer, the one person that can get him out of this horrible situation. His one way out, his one hope is now resting with this cupbearer. Do you think the cupbearer remembers him? Plot twist, no, he doesn't, right? It's just like normal, just like his life. And it says this, Pharaoh's birthday came 3 days later, and he prepared a banquet for all of his officials and staff. He summoned his chief cupbearer and chief baker to join the officials. And this is a weird birthday. I don't know how they celebrated birthdays back then in Egypt, but part of his birthday festivities is he restores the cupbearer, and then he watches the baker get executed in front of him. Talk about dinner and a show, right? I don't know about that. I don't think they do that at Chuck E. Cheese, but hopefully not. Let's continue. Pharaoh's chief cupbearer, however, forgot all about Joseph and never gave him another thought. And so Joseph is now forgotten, left in prison, with no way out, no future hope. And maybe some of us right now in 2020, we're in November 2020, we feel like we're stuck and there's no future of a hope, no way out. Maybe you look at online schooling, you're like, there's no future, there's no way out. Don't give up, because there's still more to Joseph's story. But in that moment, Joseph felt completely forgotten about. Maybe he even felt forgotten about by God. God, why am I doing all these good things if nothing's happening? God, why am I trying so hard if there is no fruit from my work? There is no reward. There's nothing good coming out of me trying so hard. Maybe some of you feel that way right now about school. You're like, I'm trying so hard and nothing good's happening. Maybe you feel that way about your family. I'm trying so hard to not punch a wall or throw a shoe and nothing good's happening. I just want to throw a shoe even more. I want to throw 5 pairs at my brother. Maybe you're here today and you're like, God, I feel like I'm trying to do all the things you're asking me to do, but I just feel like you don't care. You're not there. So for this next question, I want you to answer this question. Does it ever feel like a God forgets about you? Does it ever feel like a God is distant? God doesn't care. God's left you out. God's passed you over. Do you ever feel like God forgets about you? We can be honest. We can be real. At Central, it's okay to not be okay. We can be real with our answers. Let's go ahead and let's share right now. So have you ever felt forgotten about God? Does it ever feel like he forgets about you? Maybe it was an unanswered prayer. Maybe it was a time you really needed God to move and work in your life, and it felt like he was really distant and far away. I know for Joseph, he probably felt forgotten about God when he was left in that jail. But when we feel forgotten, God is still for us. You see, those are just our human emotions. It's not all truth. It's important for you to be in touch with how you feel, but it doesn't make that reality. In moments you feel like God is far away, he is still for you. And I think it all comes down to how much do we think we're valuable? How much do we think we're worth? I love this verse in Luke 12, verse 6. It says this, "Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies?" We don't have many sparrows around in Las Vegas or in other parts of the country. Let's sub that word out for pigeons. How much are 5 pigeons sold for? Some of you would say $0, nothing. I'll pay you to get rid of them. But this is what it says, "And not one of them is forgotten before God." Not one of them is even forgotten before God. "Why, even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, you are more valuable than many sparrows," or many pigeons. You are more valuable to God than a pigeon. Maybe that's something you just need to tell yourself today. You are more valuable to God. And God doesn't forget about the sparrows. God doesn't forget about the pigeons. Even when we feel forgotten in a situation in life or in a season in life, God is still for us. Another thing I really want to highlight and just point out to you today is this. There is power in God's presence. There is power in God's presence. Not only is God for you, but God is with you. God is with you through every circumstance and situation you find yourself in. And there is power in his presence. When you're trying to get through school, because school is unlike any other school year it's ever been, when you're trying to get through and navigate a relationship, maybe with your family, maybe with friends, you don't have to do it on your own. God is with you and he's giving you the power to get through the situation. God gives you everything you need. It's not that you're strong enough, it's that God is strong enough for you. And the reason why God was still able to use Joseph is Joseph did not try to do everything in his own power. He did it through God's power. So when you feel like giving up, when you feel like you're not strong enough, when you feel like you can't anymore, that's okay. God still can. So God is with you, God is for you, and there is power in his presence. And the last thing I want to highlight, the last thing that I want to leave with you today is this. We need to trust God's promise through the process. We need to cling on to and have faith in God's promise through the process. Maybe some of you have dreams your whole life of being some type of career field. Maybe you want to be a policeman. Maybe you want to help your community. Maybe you just want to get through college or get through high school or even middle school. Just graduating middle school is your one dream. But you need to trust God through the process. 2020 did not turn out how any of us thought. It's just one giant plot twist. But we still can trust God through this process. This process is preparing us for God's promise. This process is teaching us new lessons, teaching us things about ourselves that we didn't know. Maybe through 2020 and through quarantine and through lockdowns, maybe you've learned a lot about yourself. Maybe you've learned that there are areas that you struggle with that you didn't know. Maybe you've learned that you really actually don't trust God that much with your life. Maybe you've realized that you just keep yourself busy with lots of distractions and things that don't mean anything. Maybe God's allowing you to go through the season for a reason. You see, Joseph was destined for amazing things by God, to be one of the rulers of Egypt, to save many lives, and we'll find that out later. But maybe God has something so amazing planned out for you, but he just needs you to go through the process first so you can become more responsible, so you can become more mature, so you can be ready for the blessing that God has for you. But you just need to trust him through the storm. Trust him through the process. Trust to these promises. God gives us so many promises. He says he'll never leave us, he'll never forsake us, that he has a plan for every single one of us, a plan for good, a plan for a future, a plan for hope. When we're in the middle of the storm, all we can see is the storm. When we're in the middle of a mess, when we feel like we're in the middle of a dumpster fire right now, all we can see is that dumpster fire, but God is with us. He's going to guide us through the season. So we just need to trust in God's promise through the process. No matter what you're going through, God was able to take Joseph out of a very hopeless situation and raise him up to something greater. He can raise you up to something greater. So let's go ahead and let's pray. Father God, thank you so much for this opportunity to just know you and to know your heart. God, to know that you are for us even when we feel forgotten. God, to know that you are with us and that there is power in that presence. And God, help us to remember your promise when we're going through the process. God, help us to cling to you, to trust you, God, when things don't look like they're working out. God, do an amazing work in us like you did in Joseph's life. God, I pray that we're able to tune in next week just to learn what you did, how you raised Joseph up. God, thank you for today. It's in your son's name that I pray. Amen. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today on CY Online. We hope that you guys tune in again next week, but also make sure you sign up for CY Night. It is coming up so soon and we have very limited spots left. We hope that we can see you guys there. Have a great week. Remember, God is for you. Thank you so much.